and good to go. So, hi, welcome to the SUSE QE Tools workshop. Today I would like to discuss with you the Agile Manifesto because how we do Agile project important self, and that's the topic for today. Gladly, we put a URL there directly, and it's one of these web pages. Look how quickly that loads. I like those. Not overloaded, really simple, and actually it's also quite old, more than 20 years now. So show of hands or any kind of reaction, who knows, who has heard about the Agile Manifesto in before? Okay, good. You right, so at least two. Who has heard about Agile as a word in before? Okay, guess so. More? Thanks. So I guess it's common that some people heard about Agile and have some patient. Some are doing Agile or doing Agile. Um, but actually, I consider the Agile Manifesto one of the core parts, and it's actually really easy. And because the most important part of that web page is visible on this very first view that you can. The idea for Agile software development was we are uncovering better ways of developing software by doing it. So through this work, we have come to value, and now that's four important statements that define what Agile should be. That is, value individuals and interactions over processes, working software, like developing software in a way so that it's working and doing to over customer collaboration or collaboration with the users, the stakeholders, such over any kind of contract negotiation, and responding to change over following. That is, while there is value on the items right, we value items on the left more. So all of these statements in bigger bold print, they are important, and of course the ones on the right hand side also important. But the we in this statement value the, and I can also speak for that, but that's like the original list of people signing that 2001, so quite some time ago. However, these core principles I still consider just. If you would like to look further, you can also follow the 12 principles of Agile software developer. You can view queries. You can also find that description in multiple different languages. If you like to find your own statement and all is trying to do the very. I would like to just focus on this four statements. So does anybody, can anybody think of an example from our daily work where we actually are exercising that, where we are doing that, where one of those principles would show? I can think of an example either within the tools team or your team or Interact.
Yeah, the common thing is I come to the Slack channel to mention something that doesn't work, and instead of sending me away to create a ticket, you basically accept it. Usually create a ticket yourself, even for quick things.
Okay.
And things are getting solved rather uncomplicatedly, sometimes without a ticket because it's so obvious. So that's really the interaction part, which works pretty well there.
Right. Okay. Cool. Yes. Yeah. Thank you. Would you like to give another example, or was just like trying to lower your head?
Oh, that's just lowering my hand. Okay.
right? I would say another example, because I mean, Jimster, because you brought it up, working software over comprehensive documentation, I would say Tumbleweed is one of those, where the big focus is on people doing the thing, provide the changes for uh, Tumbleweed, where on a daily basis you can see there is a change in the software that is developed. So any new build of Tumbleweed brings a change in features, new features, bug fixes, all that, while it would never even be possible to have any kind of that can keep up with those changes. Of course, there is documentation, but the focus is really. Anybody else? You can also bring like, yeah, let's stay with where it works out, and then later on maybe some examples where we can actually move, or you could think of an idea of what could try it out to else. Yeah. Oh, okay. So the individuals and interaction, I would say that goes for collaboration or contact points from anyone outside the tool. Example that also goes for any kind of work organization within the team. So what we try to do there is put a focus on collaborating, talking, and discussing within the team. While we do have processes and tools, like for example, we use wiki page, and we have this um, the status. I'm struggling a bit when it's all open in another tab. How can I put that in a new tab? Never mind. For example, we have this list of tickets which is defining our backlog, and in there we are using status. So for example, we have tickets which are in progress, and that is important for us. However, it's on the right hand side of the manifesto. That's processes, right, where we say like, we are organized for work, but in the end, even more important than that is the daily interaction. For example, that we say we try to be active on GitHub, helping each other in peer review. That's also why you can see I caught up, because I already today in the morning I took a look there. I also see that from other members of the team, really quick about reviewing each other's pull requests, and even quicker than that. For example, meet in Jitsi or recent work adventure, which also integrates Jitsi for that. Within the day, we can just say like, hey, Jan or Janis, do you have some minutes, and we can meet and talk about something. So we don't need to set up a proper meeting or collaborate on something. It's talking about a pull request, talking about a new idea, implement collaborative. How is it with working software over comprehensive documentation for the products that we provide? Stay there. So let me give one example. If I go to OpenQA, there is an automatic change log. Just follow that version number from the end. You can see here what we did. And for example, you could say you could see here that we are adding more features. I mean, in some cases, it's like fixes, but for example here, add job groups ID build results API route. That's a new API route. The focus for us was on adding that feature and making use of it. How is it about documentation? Well, actually, that API route is not directly mentioned in documentation as in open.docs. However, it's mentioned if we take a look into API help and then here follow this link, then you're on the page not found. So it's like maybe a bit confusing, but actually there's a description for the API route, which is generated from the in-file comment. And I would say that's a compromise that we are taking. Say like, well, to make proper use of the API, even ourselves, it helps to have that documentation string. And so we would like to add this minimum part of the document. Could you think of having better, more streamlined documentation? Yes, for sure, but we can only need to choose where we are applying our. So that's at least some part of what we can do. But also you can see here mention one specific Git commit. That's one that I created the past days. Explain combination worker class values and more examples. That's actually an addition I did to the documentation based on you guys, based on user feedback, because there was a question and actually a note where the current documentation really lacks a bit, and I took that opportunity to apply the learning from that discussion to an actual improvement of the document, like really rather spontaneous, interactively, and case by case. Customer collaboration over contract negotiation. Well, I mean, we are already setting up ourselves as a team that we are not doing like strict contract where we would work on project for, let's say, some months or years, and we have a real contract for that. Of course, you can also see contract as in a smaller part where a feature request by you would do a certain kind of promise and contract. And rather than trying to argue if we should do something or not, what I'm trying to do, I know there's always potential for improvement, is work with you when you, let's say, when you see a problem, when you have a certain request, then there is a certain need which you or the users have, and I would like to help to address the need. Maybe don't want or cannot change the actual functionality of the software. Maybe a need can be addressed by better documentation. Or maybe we can address the need by giving some hints of how you could build your own, let's say, some kind of external script to work with the API instead of adding a button to the OpenQA UI directly. Anybody would like to share some other examples or has some ideas where we could improve?
No, but for me, at least this one is about involving other people too.
Of course. Yeah. Right. So also,
Like, don't open a ticket and expect someone make the ticket work on this and done.
yeah,
Uh, but also involve other people to for reviews, maybe for testing,
right.
uh,
So you would say, or just opening a ticket as in a contract could mean that people expect, like, I opened a ticket, now do everything, right? But rather it's a start for actual collaboration, and you can say, like, it goes both ways, where you would start with something and then say, like, hey, maybe we can sit together, you try it out, maybe even provide you some basics, and then you try to implement it yourself in a pull request. Is that what you mean?
Yeah, right.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, we can also look at the bot, because half of the functionality there is actually made for the from the teams which are using it, not from us at all.
Right. So for QEMBot in particular, as well as for other tooling which are more related to the actual business logic of how the individual teams work, there we are trying to set up the environment so that you would have an easier time to actually add the feature yourself. So for example, let me mention another example, MTUI. So then, meanwhile, this is a proper public open source project. And the big focus that we did was that we added, let me see, we added GitHub CI integration, added tests, we added the mergify rule, the proper license, a make file, actually not instructions in the README how to test, but also integration into CodeCarve. You can see that the coverage is rather low, but at least we have set it up for a start. And from there on, at least the basics are in place so that you could try to implement yourself what is needed there. But of course, again, it always goes both ways. So if any one of you would like to contribute a change and do it yourself, then we are really happy to support you there. And even if originally we planned to work on something completely different, if you already went the extra mile to open a pull request, let's say a draft pull request with just sketching out the idea, then we are really happy to help you there, either with feedback in the pull request, how to get going, or if you would like to have more support, can be an interactive coding session. Which is actually also what the last point means, responding to change over following a plan. So what could be the change? The change could be that, as I just mentioned, you come with an idea to us and say, like, you would really like to do that, and you are willing to do, let's say, most of the work implementing that. You just need some help to get going. Sure, we will help you there. It could mean that we are challenged with something that was not part of our plan, but we need to react to that. Let's say a change in the organizational structure at SUSE, or data center move, where, well, okay, I mean, that was really like planned for years, but still, as part of that, there can be some changes where, let's say, maybe somebody says like, hey, we need to change the network setup to make it more secure. Okay, that's something like that happen. And then we are saying like, okay, well, yeah, sure. I mean, that's a necessity. We need to respond to that. And we also need to set up ourselves so that we can respond. And also the same goes for minor issues. You bring up a problem in that, like what Dimster mentioned, then maybe sometimes, a single person can just respond and help. Maybe we can record a ticket and adopt it into the plan, maybe for, the next planning period a bit later. But maybe it's so important that we are shifting immediately. Or it could be good opportunities. Like if something opens up, like there's GitHub or maybe on OBS. So we are saying like, yeah, sure, let's try it out. I mean, plan to do something different, but rather than, strictly following the plan because this is planned before, you're ready to try it out. That also means that it doesn't really make sense to lay out a plan for the next years. I mean, we do have a plan, like some ideas, some rough ideas for the next years, but not sketched out in all. Let me show you one example of that. So here we have the overall backlog with around 60 tickets. And here you can see the top level view, the sagas. And the sagas define us on a time frame of months or years, how we structure. There are more sagas that would come after that, or maybe will never come because it's just a rough plan for the future. But we already have some ideas, for example, for state-of-the-art user experience for OpenQA. And as you can see, it doesn't really include much. There's just one epic there and a patch update for jobs. That's based on a discussion I had Santiago Sarate. So it's like really rough. But over time, we are adding more details there and planning for, but only if the time comes. Another point that I would like to show here is we have 51 tickets currently, the backlog, and we have a tag which is called reactive work. What you can see here, that we have 12 tickets which are labeled already, tagged already with reactive work. That means that at least those 12 tickets, there could be more which are not having the proper tag yet, but at least those 12 we didn't plan really much in before, but those were like really coming up lately. For example, one outcome from our internal retrospective, which was just like the last retrospective from last week, the one for that, where the tools team came up internally with some ideas to improve, and I would like to take those ideas from the team seriously. I mean, we will not work on all the ideas immediately, but some of those we can say like, yeah, sure, let's work on those. Hadn't planned that in before, let's do it. Another one is OBR's rsync run minion task fail with no error message. Like, so, a regression, a crash, or a problem that just cropped up. That wasn't part of the plan, but we take those bugs seriously. Similar for infrastructure management, no IPMI. So this one machine that was problem reported by someone outside the team. This machine doesn't produce zero output anymore. So we are reacting to that. Same for enable slow roll test. So Bernhard Wiedemann came to me, but also I had the idea myself to say like, hey, it'd be nice to support that. That's not really part of our roadmap, but it's a nice opportunity for us to learn how to use tools, support others to get going as accelerator, and that's why we tag it as React. So any more ideas about those points here? Some more examples from regarding the tool team, or maybe outside the tools team?
No, but I want to mention that I
Yeah,
have
Janis, you're like super low volume right now.
I have the feeling, can you hear me?
Yeah, good. That's good.
That all of them is somehow interconnected.
Okay. Can you give
So
an
you
example?
cannot just take. Okay, working software for me means that you always provide something that works. When
Yeah.
you create a task, you make sure that it works. But let's say you want to change the database, so you
Mhm.
have to adapt to the new change quickly, and you have you need the collaboration, and you're gonna make it faster, giving
Okay.
attention to individuals and their actions to end
Right.
up with the working software. Like everything, if you cannot apply one and ignore the others. Like, yeah, like you cannot expect a change and without the um,
Yeah,
collaboration and
absolutely. Uh, you're right. It would be really hard to set up ourselves, leaving out one of those. Okay. Does anybody have examples where this doesn't work out, or where you say maybe we can improve? Please be open. I'd like to learn. I would like to improve. So I appreciate the critique.
Like in general, I think in it's different. The application of agile in OpenSUSE from the um, corporate environment.
Okay. Different? Is
Yeah,
it easier for one of them?
um, usually the I think the OpenSUSE source tradition, it's we wait one guy or one group of people do all the work.
I would also like to
And
relate that to the chat message. Have you ever experienced a situation to agile and not using tips? Yeah, very good point. I can share two examples from speaking from my own experience. One example was at my previous job. There, in on the level of smaller team, as well as on the level of department, as well as on the level of a bigger group with multiple departments. I was part of a 2 to 3 person, and we wanted to be pushed for agile. And what we did there is address it from multiple levels. I mean, there are some practices which you can just apply within a small team because it doesn't really affect the outside. And you can do that, and in parallel, can, for example, on the department level, what I did there is provide presentations, just introduce the concept first, and then later on come up with suggestion where it would help us. And Agile promises for different roles, different groups of people, certain benefits. But that means if you want to convince somebody, then try to address them in their individual role. I mean, you can convince a developer to say like, hey, you don't have to start writing comprehensive documentation. You can focus on working software, but do it properly, because that's what developers like anyway, to do it properly. But if you're talking about a department director, you cannot just tell them like, hey, we will just, ditch all plans and all contract negotiation. We will just, work in a chaotic way. That's not the right promise. But you can say that you can be more efficient, you can save cost, and be more flexible towards any challenges that come up on the way. And by that, you're promising that can deliver a better product. The second example that I would like to share is that actually within SUSE, we also introduced that. I'm convinced that the open source development model already really similar and near to many agile principles. So it offers so many open points that's feeling just natural to do it in this way. Yes, of course, there can be many open source projects where you just have a single person. But if you want to collaborate, that's like, take GitHub. That's a given, and many agile principles are in there already manifest themselves. They're just a different incarnation of agile software development principles. So that's why I would say it was also natural and easy as a fit for the team at SUSE, let's say within the QA department where it wasn't done yet to. An important part here is the, let's take individuals and interaction as well as responding to change. To do it properly, you're always evolving. So that's why you can do different ways. You can do Scrum, you can do any kind of custom process. I think one of the important parts to really practice Agile is that you're running an continuous improvement process. That's usually a retrospective, like a retrospective meeting, where you're collecting ideas as a team. You're looking back into what worked out nicely, what didn't work out so well, and then come up with ideas for improvement. And that's really a key part where you're saying like how we work as individuals and interactions. Let's try to identify, maybe there was some, maybe there were some points of frictions. Maybe, maybe I had an argument with somebody. So let's bring it to the table. Let's talk about it. Let's try to identify what was the root cause for that and come up with improvement. Maybe somebody has found a new technology that they want. Then let's reserve some time to run the experiment. Maybe there's feedback about how you are interacting, like, maybe you feel like you have too many meetings. How would you address that? Try to reduce the meetings. You can try to improve the moderation of the meeting itself. You can try to change the agenda of the meeting. Be ready to, run experiments, respond to change, try it out, and improve over. So, any other ideas? Maybe some ideas that you think about based on the discussion, you think you could try out yourself, or which we could try out in.
No, I just want to ask you if you see downsides of the agile, or from your experience, if you have
Yeah.
any.
Oh, yeah, good point. The downsides, well, no, I don't see downsides directly. What I see are challenges or caveats, because let's stick to what is mentioned here on the right hand side. One must, or actually this sentence, this is really important. You should not take agile as an excuse. Sometimes it's used as an excuse. I mean, 20 years ago, it was really something new and some people trying it out. Nowadays, I mean, take a look for job offers. Okay, usually job offers in the tech industry, they like to use some buzzwords like you have an agile team and the woodwork in a Scrum team. But you should be careful if sometimes that's not used as a hollow promise and it's not really active, as in, does it really value those parts? And on the other side, there is real value in, let's say, process and tools. For example, you cannot just have a chaotic bunch of people that are like, yeah, let's meet on every day and maybe we do some work and maybe we don't, whatever you fancy doing. There is value in processes, really organize the work. And we are talking about bringing more than individuals together. Having an agenda as an enterprise or in a corporate environment does make sense. You want to run a business, you want to make money somewhere. So obviously you need contracts, you need a plan, and for complicated products, you need documentation that's given. So don't use it as an excuse, but really follow through. But I would say this manifesto is simple enough, is generic enough. If you would follow that and be honest about it and yourself, then there are no real downsides. Obviously, this is not specific enough. I mean, this doesn't tell you like how should I structure my team or how should I run meetings or something. Like specific examples is Scrum, and there's a really nice resource available with a Scrum guide, the Scrum guide. Yeah, I can recommend you read it. But again, here take it with a grain of salt. I mean, don't follow it to the letter and then you say like, yes, we certified our company because follow all that to the letter, because that should give you the incentive to think about yourself how you would. Okay. Anything else? Any question, notes by anybody? Oh, okay, fine. That's great. Thank you for participating. I would like to point out what we plan to the next week. Oh yeah, book to suggest. Yeah, please suggest a book. For the next time, next week, I won't be there next Friday, but I would like to be presenting a new feature that we added lately, AI, to allow to search for tests by comment, also with a link to it. So look out to that in the next project. And thank you for the book suggestion, Phoenix Project. Yeah, I heard about that. I haven't read it myself. I think it can. It's actually also a nice reference. All right. With that, thank you, and again next time.